morning and welcome. I'm Bob Pace, your host, and I have a secret how to fight CPS and get your children back. This is a live broadcast uh, coming to you from Facebook via YouTube. Um, it's a show that we talk about the Child Protection Services, a branch of social services, and how do we get our children back. And it seems lately that we have some problems with social services, and they've really grown out of proportion. And so I'm here to talk to you about my experiences and hopefully have people with their experiences share their on the show. There are several ways to react with this show. First of all, you can text me a comment and uh, put your name and the state you're from, your allegations, and what children it involves, and what your question is. And then I'll try my best to answer your questions as best as I can. I'm not an attorney, but I have lots of years' experience. I first started getting uh, phone calls from CPS soon after I lost my job. And um, it happened where they were just constantly uh, hassling me month after month, year after year. And I was unaware at the time that these allegations against me and my family were from my wife's side of the family. So that was where a little bit of the trouble was. So besides typing in a comment with your name and where you're from and your allegations and what children involves and the question how I could help you, you could also go live on the show. There's several ways you can do so. First way is to call me right now, 626-698-0990. Great, we got someone in the room. Welcome. And when you call that number as my direct line, I can put you on the show. That's 626-698-0990. So you can write comments. Make sure you put your name and the state you're from, your allegations, and how many children involved in the question you have. Excuse me. I may have to drink some water here. Another way you can get on the show if you can't talk right now or you'd like to talk another day is to call 888-888-6582. Ask the office, tell them that Bob Pace sent you, and schedule a time and a place uh, not time and place, a time for my show and be on my show. I'm on twice a day, 7 days a week. First time at 10 in the morning and at 7 o'clock at night. And looks like we got our guest speaker showed up, Angeline. Oh, she was there, but she's gone. Okay. We may have a guest speaker this morning, which is great, which is super, super, super great. So anyway, call that number, 888-888-6582, and you could be on the show. You just tell them what date and time you want. Again, I'm on 7 days a week, 10 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock at night, Pacific Standard Time. The show is from Southern California, this podcast, and it's hosted. Well, it's. I shouldn't say I'm the one that hosts the show. It's sponsored by Vincent W. Davis and Associates. It's a law firm here in Southern California, and it has many lawyers with lots of expertise in different legal parts of the field. Primarily, Mr. Davis is a family law attorney, and that's what we're talking about is family law here. He's a professional, been doing it for a long time. He has won cases against CPS. He has gotten children back. He's even fought CPS with a civil suit and won that and has beaten CPS. He also has trial experience. He can do trials. So he has a um, valuable experience there. Now, Mr. Davis is offering right now a 30-minute up to an hour of a free consultation where he will talk to you about the strategies of how to fight CPS and get your children back. So that's a free consultation he's offering. You need to call in at 888-888-6582. Tell him that um, Bob Pace sent you, and then you can schedule a him time. Now there's a ticket going across the screen at the bottom, and it gives the website where his calendar is. That way you can find out, what openings he may have, and then that can pick the openings there. So you're probably wondering why you need an attorney. Well, first, welcome, and then some people came and they left. Okay, we're going to get people just popping in and out. The reason for an attorney is you need somebody to navigate through the horrors of CPS. And I mean horrors, it's a really complex thing. There are laws and there are petitions and motions and all kinds of things you need to have an attorney help you through. The attorney is a very valuable tool. I regret that I didn't have an attorney, and I'm not talking about public defenders, I'm talking about a real attorney where you do have to pay money for him to do a professional job. And so Mr. Davis is the man. So after hearing him for your half an hour to an hour of free consultation and you talk to him, you may want to retain him so you can work that out and do that. So anyway, going back to Child Protection Services, a branch of social services. They are a very, very troubled agency. And I mean by trouble, it made my life really, really bad. My life was so bad. I mean, I mentioned early part of the show that for 5 years they were constantly hassling me since I lost my job. And that was back in 2010. And it wasn't to 2015 that they stole my children and made accusations that aren't true. They weren't very transparent. They're very deceitful. They do lie. And in my case, it was a horrible experience with CPS. Most of the people I talked to on this podcast have said similar stories, whether they're from Nova Scotia, Canada, or down in Maine, or down in Virginia, Georgia, Florida, Maryland, Tennessee, and they come from all walks of life. Some are grandmothers, grandfathers, single parents, mothers, dads, parents struggling because of hard times, lack of job, homeless, lost their home, or where the case may be. Anyway, CPS is supposed to do something besides protect our children from neglect and abuse. They're supposed to do something called family reunification. They're responsible to get the family back together. They don't believe it. They don't talk that way. They don't act that way. You'll have a rude awakening that you'll find that CPS are not skilled, meaning that they do not have a license. They don't need a college degree to be a CPS social worker. There's no certification. There's nothing checking them or anything else. And they're supposed to know everything there is about families and how to protect children and how to get the families back together. And my social worker was very young, and she only been in it for a year or two, and all she was interested in is her next gift that she'd get or what she'd buy. She always talked about her eyelashes, her makeup, her Gucci purse, her clothing, her car being every cover. They get bonuses, and that may surprise you, but they get bonuses. They get incentives for keeping the child in CPS and getting them adopted because they get a lot of money per each child from the federal government and from the state. And that money is not all used on the child. It's so ridiculous what they can do and what they can get away with. And so, again, for you to just newly come in there, uh, please call in at 626-698-0990 and you talk about your case. Or if you don't want to call in, you can put a comment in my box here and make sure you put your name and the state you're from and what the allegations and your children involved and what your question is, and I'll try to help you. Also, if you later want to appear on the show as a guest, it's 888-888-6582. It's a hard thing to talk about matters with CPS. It's also a hard thing to be deceived because I had a lot of faith in our government agencies. I had a lot of faith in the government. And I found through this whole exercise that social service is very, very corrupt and that the law enforcement was corrupt. They just want to do they work hand in hand with social services, and it's really bad. Social services uses the impression of a law enforcement officer is that you've done something bad. They want to kidnap your children. They want to steal your children. They want to take your children. It's the only legal agency that gets away with it. And, they right away want to think there's extreme things going on with the allegations. So they put it in extreme mode. And they don't want you to keep your children. They want to put them in shelters, group homes, foster care so they can be adopted. And then, they don't, they try to put it with family members, but that never seems to work out. And one thing that I'll tell you is that there is, if any of you are Native American Indian children, or you yourself, whether you're registered with the Indian tribe or can be registered, there's the 1970 Act that was passed by it called the Indian Child Welfare Act, sometimes pronounced as ICWA. No, that's not an Indian word. ICWA is the first letters of the Indian Child Welfare Act. And so ICWA was made in 1979, which is not too long ago. I mean, that's 30 years ago, but that act said that social services, CPS, must first try to place the child with a tribe. Now, what that all means is that instead of the CPS getting the child, the tribe would, and the tribe is a lot better at handling their own tribal members and getting their children back. They don't do it for money, and they would take your child and you work out your problems and get the case completed, and you can reunify your family. So I'm only telling you that because social workers are supposed to, in the beginning, to identify what ethnicity you are. So that's an avenue where your children aren't stolen into shelters or group homes or foster care. They can go with the tribe, and the tribe can help get them reunited with the family. So that's ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act of 1979. Now, I don't know, there's two of you in the room. I don't know what case you're doing or if you have a CPS case. Oh, there's three. Congratulations. We've got three in the room. That's good. But I'd love to hear what you have to say because it helps others. I have so many different stories and people on the show talk, and over 100 some people, but they have one thing in common: where they're at, whether it's in one state or another, even one country, because I've had Australia call in and I've had Canada call in. CPS has done them wrong. CPS has been bad. CPS, are just people that aren't trained. They don't even have to be a mentor, meaning they can come and get hired the first day and have a case the next day. It's a scary thought. And they're dealing with thousands and thousands of dollars. This CPS where I'm at is $1 billion business, meaning they make so much money. And the guy who's the head dog or the top dog there is in a Taj Mahal of a building in Southern California. It's not where the social workers are. It's only where the CEO and the managements and the elite people are there. It's really disgusting. It really is disgusting that they have more money to take care of their buildings than they take care of the kids. And the money is in their pockets in the form of bonuses and terrible things there. Um, so, with that being said, again, is there anybody that'd like to make a comment or call in and let's hear what you have to say before I talk about my case? It's a very hard case for me to go through, even though I'm still dealing with it. Well, 14 years later, um, I've been, harassed by CPS. I should say that stopped at 2017, so it wasn't after soon enough lost my job, and then in 2015 is when they stole my children, and then 2017 got my children back. I had to get an attorney to get them back. They're so corrupt you don't know, and I am very educated and savvy about fighting issues. But every time I fought them with emails and letters and phone calls and standing up for my civil rights, I was shot in the foot. It went in one ear, went out the other ear. Even when I talked to upper management or different social workers, it was a waste of time. I started off with a public defender, and that's something you should be aware of. The public defenders are lawyers, fresh out of law school, and haven't been practicing much. They're handling 20 or more cases at one time. And if you can imagine handling 20 cases, how are you going to know intimate the details, or how are you going to be able to defend that person? They make uh, they make trade-offs with the other attorneys and social workers. They make deals in the courtroom. You'll find at the courtroom the dependency court is corrupt too. My judge knew nothing about family law or about how to um, get a family back together. All he knew about was collision of cars and what the price of a collision and damages for property. So that's the guy that was handling my case. Very, very bad. That judge is very bad. And this being election year, you need to go out and vote. You need to go out and vote. In November, you can vote for the judges to be in there. And you want to pick judges that have a family law background, somebody that would really be helpful in the courtrooms. You don't need to have judges in there that are not qualified, let alone the social workers are not qualified. And it's really sad. I mean, this is the only profession I know that they don't have any certificate or skills or requirements to be a social worker. If you're a doctor, oh, looks like we got Angeline. Welcome, Angeline. Are you ready to talk on the show, Angeline? Hopefully, you got a good connection. I'd love to hear from you. We have 2 to 3 people right now that are listening in. And if you can hear me, um, we can put you in the show if you're ready. Um, we got a person named Sky, Skyy, who just texted me a message. I won my case from a public defender. What state are you calling from, Sky? What state are you calling from? What state are you calling from, Sky? Angeline, I've put you into the room, and when you're ready, you can go ahead and talk. Ohio. Okay, Sky, nice to meet you. She won her case in Ohio, and I'm really happy to hear that. That's a good thing. Can you call in and share a story with us? Can you call into 626-698-0990 and share your story, Sky, um, in Ohio? Okay, we lost Angeline. She was up there, but I guess she's having internet problems. My producer is trying to lasso her in. Anyway, Sky, you'd like to come on and talk? It's call right now at 626-698-0990. You can talk live. Or you'd like to type some more about how your public defender worked and how the social services uh, CPS workers were in Ohio. Love to hear that. I love to hear that. I'm so glad that you um, decided to interact with this show here. So anyway, while Sky's typing her next thing there, I just like you guys can put in your allegations, what children involved, and how your public defender is able to win your case to keep your children. That's really good to hear. As I was talking earlier about public defenders, they carry a caseload of 20 some people. If you don't like the public defender, you can ask for another one. So the courts are full of public defenders. Now, one thing in your court you're going to find out, at least where I was going to court, is you're not allowed in the courtroom. Most courtrooms, you're allowed to hear your case. The only time I came in the courtroom is when I had to sign a paper or be told something. Then me and my wife would go into the courtroom. But it's really a sad state of affairs. Also, the children are not in the courtroom. And that's the bad thing, is that CPS is using alienation. And that's against the law to alienate somebody. It's against the law. And what they do is that they try to pit the kids against the parents, but keep them in the dark. When your kids are taken from you and you're involved with CPS, they do not have weekly meetings where you can sit at a table and discuss what each side's doing, what the kids are doing, what the parents are doing. So the kids have no idea. They have no idea why you were taken in the first place. The only thing they're in a terrible place. Now I mentioned a shelter. This shelter was so bad. This shelter was right next to the dependency courts, right next door to the prisons. So they had hardened criminals that could, you know, contact the children there. And then the play area was outside with beehives. There's lots of bees that could sting them. So where's the protection, CPS? Where is it? The food wasn't good. It was overcrowded, and it was dirty. It was dirty because I visit my child there, and I was not too impressed. And so that's what they're trying to do to protect my children. Where my children were well protected in my home. Our home was a beautiful home. It was each child had his own bedroom, and we had a huge yard, and it was safe. It was there's familiar surroundings. It was close to the school. You could walk to the school if you wanted to, where our kids went. We had 3 children. We totally have 6. The older ones are doing quite well, but the young 3 ones were the ones that CPS was obsessed with. And all it started out with these allegations that they believe were true. That's the biggest problem, biggest stumbling block you'll have with CPS. When allegations are made, they are considered to be truthful until you're proven innocent. So you're guilty before you're proven innocent. Where every other court of law, every other state there, status, you are innocent till you're proven guilty. If you get arrested for something or get a ticket for something, you have a promissory to appear in court, or you went out on bail to promise to go to court. You're going to answer your charges. Up until that time, you're innocent until they have either a trial by jury or in minor ticket violation here before the judge. You're not guilty. That's why you don't pay a fine right away. That's why, you're allowed free to go on your own. And so in family law and family court, social workers say, you're guilty. I hear this allegation, you're guilty. And so that's a hard thing to face. That is one of the hardest things I faced with CPS, was this part that you're guilty. And so they're going to do their darnest to investigate, which they do investigate, but the way investigation is using deception and try to get you to commit something. Did you know that by law you don't have to let a social worker into your home? You don't have to let a policeman into your home. They have to have a warrant, a court order warrant that says they have permission to go in there because some extreme danger is happening, and it has to be specific of what they're looking for and the person they're looking at. So you don't have to have them in your home, and that's what a mistake a lot of people do. Stupid things they don't realize. And in my case, early on, the first couple of years I've lost my job. Um, I let them in my home because I thought I could trust them and so forth. There was nothing in the home that would find. It wasn't until later when I had a perfect storm brewing. And what I meant by that is when I lost, it started back in 2007 when the banks were doing predatory loans and the banks fell apart. And of course, my retirement was cut in half, badly invested by my company. And so I lost half of retirement of 4 years. But the banks gave me a predatory loan, which I did not know. It's where they bump up the income, where they suddenly use document your documents. Why? Because people with predatory loans love to make money on the bonuses. So they'll refinance 2 or 3 times and early on. So rates were really low. I mean, it's really easy to get. I had a credit line and I had a mortgage first with a low rate. And I had a very big home that should not have been in. The home was huge. It was 3 times more than my previous home was worth. And I had a big mortgage for it. And so when I lost my job through no fault of my own, because also that was happening in 2010 as the state of California was going bankrupt. So was Detroit. The city of Detroit, Michigan was going bankrupt. Everybody was having hard times. And the governor decided to be creative and write IOUs on contracts, public works contracts that I had with the state in construction, heavy highway and civil engineering. To write IOUs, that means they will still do the job, but they don't have the funds at this time. I tried to go to the banks. It was worthless. The banks were all coward because of their stupidity giving away free loans and the predatory loan market and the whole thing there. So I couldn't get any there. So I had to close my general contracting and I was out of work. Trouble was, is I was 60 years old and they don't like hiring old people. They think 60 is old. We have 2 presidents right now. They're in their 80s. I don't think 60 is old. I don't think 70 is old. And so it's, as long as your brain is sharp, your health is sharp, you get around and can pass any physical test, you can drive a car and could think and do things, you're a valuable asset out there. They should not tell people that you're too old. In the Philippines, if you're 55 or older, you're not allowed to work. That's how bad some societies are. And unfortunately, I have to work because I had a lifestyle that was higher, and I'm trying to provide for my family, the lifestyle, and I had to pay bills. It's even hard now with the little bit of Social Security I receive and getting the food and the medical and so forth. And lately, Social Services has failed on that. They say in April they're going to change, but suppose my income at Social Services is too high. Not Social Services, Social Security is too high. It's my retirement money that you've already earned, you've already been taxed on, and they're paying you back in dribbles. They don't give you the whole money. If I did, I could invest it. And they did not, I've been working for 59 years. They certainly did not invest my money so I collect interest. They used it themselves. And it's a lot of money, and they multiply it times a lot of people, and that's how they're able to do things. And anyway, our government's corrupt too because they're in debt too. It's just, oh boy. There's a whole can of worms with our government, a whole can of worms with all the social issues that are happening. And one of the hardest things here is to deal with CPS. CPS is not your friend. You have to be careful about them. And it's, uh, it's a hard thing to swallow. At this time, I like to talk about an attorney that is offering a free consultation, 30 minutes up to an hour, to talk about the strategies of your CPS case and how to get your kids back. He's a family law attorney. His name is Vincent W. Davis, and he's a family law attorney, a professional. He has trial experience. He has fought CPS and won, and he has gotten children back. He's also gone another step and fought them civilly. He's filed civil suits and won too, where social workers will lie and cheat and use deception practices and violate your what do you call it um, your constitutional rights, violate things that are supposed to be in the Constitution that you're right, and so forth. Social workers are really tough, and you need a tough man like Vincent W. Davis. So please call in 888-888-6582 and mention that Bob Pace sent you and schedule a time with them to get that consultation to help you out. You have nothing to lose. It's up to an hour of free time for a very valuable attorney. There's a little ticket at the bottom of the screen that shows the website for his calendar. Check it out and find a time that works best for you. But please call in 888-888-6582 and mention that Bob Pace sent you. Okay, I've talked about, having an attorney. So another valuable tool is you should have a notebook or some type of writing device that you can jog down the facts and notes that are happening every day on your case. And it should only be the facts relate to your case. So if an incident happens, you write in the date and the time, you write who it involved, what it was, and the outcome. And you keep track of that and page by page, because that way you'll go back a month or 2 months or 3 months. I had no idea it was going to take 3 years to get my kids back. And that's a long time. And I wish I had started a notebook like that. I wish there's a lot of things you don't do. I wish I had an attorney right away. I wish I contacted an attorney so that maybe I could get all my kids back. By the way, we only got 2 of the 3 back. Our young daughter decided to be adopted. She thought the adoption thing was great because they had money. And at that time, I'd lost all my money. I could no longer take my kids to Disneyland on an annual pass because I couldn't afford it. So we were living a Spartan lifestyle, and she was a Barbie girl in a Barbie world. And she wanted things, and that was a really disappointment. But she was brainwashed into thinking that foster care is a better thing than her real parents, because she divorced us, her brothers, sisters, her grandmother, her grandfather, etc. And then she sealed her birth certificate, changed her name, and wants nothing to do with her mom and dad who gave her life, who raised her for 12 years. And she was a beautiful person. I still love her to this day. But it's sad to say. The allegations made by family members were ridiculous. There was so much I had to uh, show that it wasn't the case. They said that we are not paying any utilities and our kids were starving to death. Well, I showed the social worker my refrigerators, the cupboards. I showed them the utility bills, showed us every utility bill is paid. And, they also said kids weren't clothed right or weren't taken care of, need medical needs and stuff. The kids were checked out. They had no medical needs. They see a doctor all the time. They wear nice clothes. They're clean. They take showers. They go to school on a regular basis, and they get A's and B's. All 3 of our kids are did very good in school. So indication of somebody with neglect or abuse. They don't go to school regularly, and they have bruises or other physical marks, or they looks lost or depressed or something like that. So there was nothing like that. They were trying to make something out of allegation because the family wanted to break apart our family and steal our kids. They've been wanting that since day one. They did not like me as my wife's husband, did not attend the wedding, so they've always been an eyesore. And what they did is they used CPS badly. They used it, and they shouldn't have. And they used it to alienate the kids from us, to alienate the kids. The alienation thing is a bad thing. It used to be just with parents alienating each other from the kids, but now you got CPS, social workers, alienating the kids, and you got family members alienating the kids, and there's these allegations, and allegations are a hard thing to disprove, but you need to keep track of the documents, label them exhibits A, B, C, whatever, so you refer to them. Highlight your notes, highlight the paperwork you receive. Keep the paperwork received and date it. All the paperwork, not just some, all of it. And have a folder for it. Go in there. And then highlight it, things that you want to use in court, things are not true. And then you have to be persistent and fight. It's very important that you fight for your rights, um, because CPS is bad. They're deceptive. And I know from firsthand experience, there's no good. And if you don't have an attorney, it's going to be really hard. It really is really hard. Well, we lost our last person in the room here. We got two people back. I don't know if the storms are brewing. I'm in California, Southern California. We're having horrific storms coming through here with lots of rain for the next 5 days. And so some of you may be in that area affected by it, but there's also storms across the country. We've had a really wet winter, and which is good because California needs lots of rain, lots of snow. But it is hard out there with the winds blowing and the flooding. And if you live along the beach, it's a lot of flooding there with tidal surges and high tides and things like that. So, um, anyway, I'd like to remind all of you that are listening to call in if you want to be a speaker on the show, a guest speaker at 626-698-0990. And that's my direct line phone number, and I'll put you on live, and you can talk about a case. Also, Sky, I don't know what happened to you, but if you have any more to talk about, I'd love to hear more. You could call in. Sky was uh, somebody that used a public defender that worked. She said her public defender won her case. It's in Ohio. But I'd like to hear more about it because she's one of the rare cases I've had come and say that CPS, she was able to win CPS. Everybody I talk to loses CPS. And they lose big time. They lose their children. There's so many of you listening that it's really sad. It really is really, really, really sad. Um, anyway, um, if you can't call in and you don't want to text anything and you want to talk a later date, you can call in 888-888-6582 and be a guest on the show. It's very important you say that Bob Pace sent you and that you could be a guest. It's 888-888-6582. So we right now have a room of 0 people. Um, this is I don't think I've ever had that where there's 0 people. I don't know if my stories are getting old or and I've gotten thumbs up and hearts and stuff, but right now it doesn't see much traffic and people going through there. You find out about this show through Facebook, and we broadcast on YouTube, and Facebook is a good place to be. Let me take a drink of water for a second here. Okay. Welcome. We have someone in the room. For you that just joined, I don't know if you've been here before, but we're talking about child protection services and how I can help you fight them if you have a case. Um, so I relate my story um, with my family because I had a really bad case, and I've been involved with CPS now. It seems like for 14 years. Um, 3 of those years, I was actually fighting them. I was fighting them, and um, they are not to be trusted. They're not to be trusted or believed. They're not transparent, and you're going to find out they use a lot of deception tactics, and they will steal your kids. Their whole goal is to get money, and the longer they keep your kids in the system, the more money they can get. And their ideal situation is to have them terminate your parental rights and have them adopted, and that way they'll get the money to their 18. And the money does not go to the kids; it goes to the coffers of the CPS for the Taj Mahal building and for their workers that work on bonuses and whatnot. So it's really hard there. Um, Again, if you want to text in a message here, um, you can do so by just typing a comment, and I can put you on your case there. I put you on the show, and we can talk about your case, and I can do to help you there. Um, One thing about uh, a form that I discovered that is really important and something you would have to. It's one reason why you have an attorney. Is called the Petition 388. The Petition 388 is a form that you use to submit new evidence or that you completed something, you made a change in your case. It's a change, it's a form to use to petition the court to have them change your plan, drop your plan, modify your plan because you want to present some new evidence that that you have. And um, that form, is something that your attorney should be familiar with. And the 3.8 is, has to be done on the right kind of stationery. There's stationery they use in courts. They have numbers and lines and so forth. So it's very important that you have this attorney because it's really hard if you don't know the way to work in the courtrooms or what they use and stuff. And the courtrooms are bad enough with the crooked judges and the people that are pals and friends in the courtroom. It's really sad because they play golf, they go out to dinner and stuff. The social workers, the attorneys, and everything. They're not for your best interests. They're not there. I mean, I saw that. I lived it. I mean, I've heard it. So many cases in there. I don't hear very much. Today was a nice one that a public defender worked, and a girl said it worked in her case in Ohio. But I don't know how true that is because, again, there's no response from her about the allegations or there's no participation. So I get a lot of people that like to play games, I guess, and use the forum as their game thing or whatever it may be. But uh, anyway, is that one thing you need to do is be persistent and keep fighting CPS. You don't want to give up. Do what they ask, but don't say very much. You don't have to say, you don't need to talk to CPS. They're not your friend. The more you say, they use against you. So it's really important to not to talk to them. It's also important to not let them in your home um, because they'll see things. What they saw in my home as my perfect storm was brewing. Not only did I lose my job and financially I was hurting there, my parents were um, dying. And what I mean by dying is that they're getting old. They wanted to liquidate their home, and they asked me for help to take the belongings. And so the belongings were um, put into my home, and that's where the social services did find something wrong. They didn't find any allegations from the call in, but because they got into my home, and how they got into my home was a terrible deception. It's something that, I cannot believe what they did. They've been trying for years to find something wrong with our family through all the allegations put in by my wife's family members that weren't true. So they were determined to revisit the home again because I had stopped them in the home because I didn't want them to see my parents' belongings, and it looked cluttered. I mean, the boxes of furniture were stacked nicely, but it didn't look good and stuff. And I was having a hard time finding work. I'd find some work and work for 6 months, and then again, and the work I'd find was a good job. One was a manager of a company because the owner had pancreas cancer and he was dying, and so I was taking over what his role was. He'd known me for a long time in the industry. But they used a trick, and what they did is that they had a police detective follow me after I picked up my son at school. And for a while, he followed me. I didn't know he was following me. And I've been driving since I left school, probably 10 minutes, maybe about, you know, 7 miles away or something like that from the school. I was going to pick up my wife, who had gone into shopping and wanted to be picked up because we were only using one car because of the financial. We didn't have really the money to run any other cars. So I had my son to go to pick up my wife, and all of a sudden I saw black and white go zipping by me and then make a U-turn so quick, turn on its lights and pulls me over. And I'm saying, geez, what have I done, son? I'm driving really slow, observing all the things in there, and the guy comes in, and I said, officer, what can I do for you? Did you know you ran a stop sign? I said, where did you see that? Because there's like 3 signals back, and the only stop sign knows back at the school. And he said, well, the guy behind me knows all about it. And I should have said at that time, why don't you give me the ticket if you didn't see it, and I'll respond to the ticket in court. But the guy behind me was a plainclothes detective. He had fatigues, combat boots, and had his badge, so he looked like he was, you know, a detective. And so I was dealing with him. He said, "You need to come home to your home right away. It's a very serious matter." I said, "What's wrong?" He wouldn't tell you. And that's another mistake he made. He violated my constitutional right. Anytime you're stopped, you're supposed to be informed what you're stopped for. You're supposed to be informed if there's something they want you to follow. Also, I didn't have to follow them. There's no court order. This is something I did not know the law. I just respected policemen and government officials as somebody that I thought all along were good people, that they're there to help people, not hurt people or use deceptive measures. And it was so bad. It was so bad. Oh, God, was it bad. So I said, I have to pick up my wife. He said, I don't care about your wife. That to me is a red flag. I said, oh, this is serious. So we go to my home, and out front of my home is all these people standing in there. And I said, well, what's going on? I looked around to see if the house was on fire or someone had broken in, and there was 5 firemen, 3 social workers, 2 code enforcement workers, 2 uniformed policemen, and the detective. And I said to myself, geez, does it take all these people to interview or talk to me at the home? And they said, we need to go in your home and we need to talk to you and see some things. And I said, well, sure. I said, all the kids are in school. I have one child here. There's nothing really you're going to see here. And at that time, I should have said, do you have a warrant? Do you have a warrant to invade my home, to, go in there? Because I know they would find something. And sure enough, they thought the belongings that I had stacked with my parents, they were orderly. They weren't messy or anything, but they were stacked. And they said, oh, wow, those belongings um, or neglect to your children. I said, how so? Well, they can hurt your children. See how the boxes are stacked? I said, well, my children are higher than those boxes are stacked. How could that hurt them? Well, they could fall and hurt them. I said, well, no. They're almost at the point where they tell me the boxes could go upstairs and attack my children, or furniture with legs could go upstairs. I mean, it was so ridiculous. It was so ridiculous. And so they said it was extreme enough for that being said that they were going to take my kids away from me that day because I had shown neglect to extreme by having my parents' belongings in the house. It was in the yard too and stuff like that. And the code enforcement people were checking things out. All they found is my yard was a little overgrown, it needed trimming, and my gate was loose. The firemen were sitting there measuring the smoke alarms to make sure that they're properly installed. The code enforcement was looking to see if there was a lock on the back door for the swimming pool, a lock on the gate that leads into the swimming pool outside, and so forth. Social workers were going through the refrigerators, checking out the cooking area of the stove, see if it was functional. They were on a witch hunt. They were on a witch hunt. And I guess it's their frustration for 5 years not finding anything and not be allowed in the house. And so they didn't find anything. The only thing I said is they found the my parents' belongings. That it was, it just wasn't up to their idea of what I guess your parents' belongings would be. Anyway, I mean, what happens if you move in a house? At first, your boxes may be all stacked, you're not settled. I mean, it was ridiculous. They were on a witch hunt, and so they took my children that first night from me and put them in a shelter where they're further endangered by hardened criminals at the prison, and the overcrowdedness, lack of quality food, and the dirtiness and the beehives that attacked the kids. So it was really that is how they protect children, and they have a planning meeting. They have something called a safety plan. Now, the safety plan is where they meet with the parents and determine where is best for the kids. Now, one thing you need to know is that the best place for your kids, of course, is with you. And if they can put you up in a hotel or something, if, for instance, your house is not livable or something like that, they should do so too. The main thing is not to break apart the families. That causes trauma. And my youngest daughter had a lot of trauma because of them. And she had a lot of brainwashing and alienation from CPS. And yes, I'm angry about that. And yes, that's wrong what they did. That is wrong what they did. And they take my children and put them in the shelter as bad. And then we have the planning meeting. And they said they can't be, either parent can't have them. And they think that our house is deemed unsafe because of my parents' belongings. And it was bad. It was so bad. So we suggested that my wife's sister and her husband could take care of the kids, and they said that they would. And so the planning on the early stages, because I thought this would only last a week or two, I didn't know it was going to last 3 years, that they could watch him for a little bit. So they watched him for a couple of months, but this case kept dragging on and on. They kept finding other things. When they interviewed us and stuff, they found out that we did domestic violence. Now, what that domestic violence was arguing in front of the kids. That is wrong. You don't argue in front of the kids. That was wrong. So they added another thing, domestic violence there. So what they're doing is they're setting you up. They slowly weave you in. They're like a spider doing a web around you, and they'll trap you. And it was so bad. It was so bad. It was so hurtful. And they're trying to employ, they're trying to alienate mom and dad. They're trying to alienate the children. They talk about alienation against the law, but CPS knows how to use it well. They know how to work the system. They duped the police and law enforcement. The law enforcement was greedy. They wanted to investigate a civil matter. So not only was this a family matter, they were trying to do a civil thing. And they were charged in negligence too. In fact, they tied a sexual charge that CPS never did. But the detective said there's sexual charges. and there's nothing that would represent. He didn't find anything. He didn't look at my computer. I don't know what sex charges they're doing. I later found out it's a ruse they use as a trading card. They put that on there so that they can have something to trade because the civil matter went to court. It took them about a year. They're making offers. They say, okay, we'll drop the charges against your wife. We'll drop the sexual charges. And you just have to agree that you be misdemeanor and be negligence to your children by having your family belongings that could endanger the kids. It's the most stupidest thing I ever heard of. That I had to agree to that, and I didn't want to. I should. I regret to this day. I should have fought it till they had a jury trial, and to because it was wrong what they're doing. It was wrong, and I didn't have an attorney. I mean, I had an attorney for that part, but it's very limited. It's about $5,000. There's not much he could do, and he said, just accept the offer and be done with it. I hate these attorneys that don't fight for you, but Vincent Davis does, and I'd like to remind you guys out there listening is that he's the one that helped me get my kids back, and he's the one you should hire. He's offering a free consultation right now to talk about strategies of fighting CPS and getting your children back. He's a professional lawyer. He has trial experiences. He has fought CPS and won. He's also done a lawsuit against CPS and won that too. He fights in all the states. Right now he's in Southern California, but he'll go to Northern California, he'll go to other states. It all depends on your case, how long it's been, how complex it is, and where you're located will determine his retention. But I had to sell my home, mortgage a home to get there so I could save my kids. I lost my home, my beautiful home. It's terrible. It really is. Right now, I'm living in an apartment that is overcrowded and it's really expensive. Oh, geez. But anyway, uh, this gentleman, Vincent Davis, is an excellent attorney. And after you hear him, you should retain him. He will really defend your case. It's worth every buck to give him. So call in to 888-888-6582. Say that Bob Pace sent you, that you want to schedule a time to meet with Vincent Davis. And below, there's a ticker running. He has a website. You can check out his calendar, and it'll give all the dates that he has open to talk to him and so forth. So I guess we have nobody. We have one person room, and no one's calling in. So we have about 2 minutes left. So I'll take down the my office phone because it goes off at 11 o'clock. So with the remainder of the time here, I've talked about certain things about CPS, and it's all been negative, and I really can't think of anything positive out of the whole matter except one thing. My wife learned more about her life growing up because of CPS. She was neglected and abused by her parents, by her brother, by her sister. There's times where she had hot coffee poured on her, times the hot water was poured on her as a punishment. She almost drowned one time. No family member went to go help her. And then her brother molested her. At an early age, she didn't know anything, and he wants to expose himself to her. And then on top of that, she went to a concert way too soon. Her parents didn't protect her. She was 15, and she went to a concert and got separated from her sister, who was over 18, watching her supposedly, who was so high on drugs. And she had gone to the bathroom, came back, and she couldn't. I mean, got done in the bathroom, but her sister's friend that walked with her had left her. That no one would watch over, and she came out and asked these two boys if they could help her find a seat. And there's 30,000 people. I don't know. Instead, they took her off in the bushes and raped her. So her first experience was having a child. Her first sexual experience was having a child, and she gave the child for adoption. Good news, he came back in her life at age 20, and right now he's a productive JAG in the Air Force, United States Air Force. So there's something to say about abortion. It's mixed signals about abortion. So I don't want to really talk about there. Anyway, she was raped again, and that's when I met her. She was a single mom with a child, and um, she'd been with me for 30 years, and her daughter's grown up with me. She moved out a year before CPS removed our children, got involved, and she's doing well. All my family's doing well, except our three youngest. One, her daughter is no longer talk to us. She's having all kinds of issues, and our two boys are too. So anyway, its time is escaped me. I want to thank you for that one listener is still there listening to me. I hope you come back again tonight and participate, and I'd like to hear your story. So, God bless you all. Good luck in the new year. Much happiness, and keep fighting for your kids. Love your kids. Keep fighting and don't give up. And this is Bob Pace signing off.